Melissa, now forecast to become a major Category 4 hurricane with significant destructive impacts likely for parts of our area. All the information about the storm you need to know right here on Meteo Mundo starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back with you. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, all the newest information on Melissa. We'll talk about what the storm has been doing, look ahead to the latest track from the Hurricane Center, all the newest model information and everything you need to know for potential impacts. I got to tell you, the news that I'm seeing today is not good as far as the potential for the storm to get very strong and bring significant, potentially life-threatening impacts to parts of our area. I will have your island-by-island rainfall forecast across our entire area, so stick around for that as well, even if you're not impacted by the storm. As always, Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, offering free consultation and policy reviews. They'll walk you through the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. So let's talk about the now. The Hurricane Center just got the 5 o'clock advisory on this Wednesday, and this is the newest track. First of all, right now, the storm is creeping along at about 2 miles an hour. Sustained winds are still 50 miles an hour. At this point in time, it's still a very sheared storm, right? We're still battling westerly shear from the storm. When you look at the visible satellite imagery, all of the deeper convection and the higher cloud tops are west of the center, but the pressure has fallen to 1,000 millibars. Melissa is likely to just slowly meander to the west-northwest over the next several days and really not strengthen much. Just slow strengthening is expected until we get to the weekend when that shear relaxes and Melissa sits over these warm waters of the Caribbean, and all that heat content just allows that storm, once it gets more vertically aligned, to rapidly intensify. So you go from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane in likely less than 48 hours. That's winds of 130 miles an hour. And the Hurricane Center talks about the fact that the intensity forecast is even likely to grow from here. It's just only grown over the last 24 hours. No, we'll get into the potential tracks because this is not a guarantee, but at this point in time, this is going to slowly meander south of Jamaica as it becomes a major hurricane and spread significant rain and wind impacts to portions of our area. Let's look at what's going on right now. We haven't had a change in the watches so far. Hurricane watch still in effect for southern Haiti, tropical storm watch for Jamaica. The only reason why is Melissa's slow movement means we're not within the time frame for these to be elevated to warnings, but likely down the road for the weekend, some of these areas and potentially others could fall under additional tropical storm watches and warnings and likely hurricane watches and warnings. This is a breakdown of everything you need to know, and then we're going to get into the fine-grained details of each of these, but just so you get a broad perspective of what's happening. Melissa is likely to move very slowly over the next several days. It is forecast to actually become a Cat 4. I wrote this before the 5 o'clock update, but a Cat 4 by late this weekend. Life-threatening flooding is likely for Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Potential significant impacts for Jamaica. We'll get into all of those coming up, but the track is going to really determine what Jamaica is going to see. I think regardless of the track, with Hispaniola being on the east side of the storm, it's going to be very wet there with the flooding concerns very elevated. Significant impacts again for Jamaica. Dangerous seas and swells, and other islands are likely to be affected by the storm, either directly or indirectly. Some of that will occur in the same time frame. Others, it might be down the road exactly where the storm wants to go. Now, to give you a little bit of a flavor of what's still happening, we have our live cameras here at Meteo Mundo. There's a live look to Oranjestad, Aruba late on this Wednesday. Again, overcast skies. We've had some breeze there. Oranjestad had a 35-mile-an-hour wind gust earlier in the day, so still some breezy conditions. Now, the reason why Melissa is likely to stay put, I showed you this graphic yesterday, is that the steering currents are basically negligible. You have an area of high pressure to the west of the storm, an area of high pressure to the east of the storm, so the clockwise winds are counteracting each other, right? On the east side of this high, the winds are from north to south. On the west side of this high, the winds are from south to north. So you negate that and you just end up having a storm that has very little steering current and just kind of sits and bobbles around over the next several days. So that's the scenario. Now, The GFS has been showing, the opportunity that we see this storm make an escape route north. And let me be very clear about one thing. Unfortunately, today, I don't see a scenario where we don't get significant impacts somewhere, right? So even if we're talking about an escape route, meaning it moves faster, there are still areas that are going to be heavily impacted by this storm, especially if it does take this slower track and becomes a major hurricane in the Caribbean. But now we are going to deep dive into the models and take a look at what the models are showing right now and compare that to what it's been showing over the last couple of days. So let me go broad real quickly here. We're going to start off with the GFS model as we always do. Now the GFS model has always had a faster track because it's had a more vertically aligned storm by this point. And that hasn't happened as of yet. A more vertically aligned storm would pick up more of these southwest winds and get pushed quicker to the north. Now this time yesterday, the GFS by Sunday had the storm clearing Hispaniola and just east of Turks and Caicos. It's now even slower. You're seeing the storm basically over the weekend park itself over Hispaniola. The amount of rain that could fall over that island if this scenario plays out is unfathomable. I mean, it could be feet of rain in this scenario, and the heavier rain could even fall as far east as Puerto Rico in the Virgin Islands. Because again, now the storm isn't moving as much. It kind of stalls out right west of Port-au-Prince. Let me be very clear. This is about as far east as you're going to see any model solution, all right? So we're basically starting with the farthest east. Even the ensemble members of the GFS, the majority of them are much farther west than this deterministic. But just to kind of show you guys, we've always looked at that model first. This is what it looks like on the wind profile. And again, you'll see a storm, first of all, that has more forward speed than what it has right now. And then more of a north turn or a north track compared to the western bobble that the other models are showing. And there is that stall out over the weekend as we get into Saturday and Sunday, the 25th and the 26th. It does become a hurricane and then starts to interact with the island and just kind of sits there. So again, it's slower, but still more east than the other models over the last couple of days. Now we're gonna look at all the other models, and as we do so, if you guys wouldn't mind taking a quick second, hitting that like button for me, really helps out the channel more than you guys think. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you want these tropical updates, not only with these forecast videos, but we're gonna be doing a lot of live streaming with our radar system. I'm gonna be going on live whenever it's needed. You guys know I've got you covered here 24/7 on the channel. Thank you for sharing this channel with your family and friends. Appreciate all those who are also members of the channel as well. If you're a member, you got an exclusive short video update from me earlier in the day, kind of giving you my thoughts on the storm. Now we look at the ensemble members of the GFS, right? So the deterministic, the main model run was right here. What do the other members of the GFS model show? There is a noticeable shift west in these ensemble members compared to yesterday, more in line with the European model and other tropical models. Sure, there are still a few outliers where the deterministic are out east, but a lot of them are slower and bring more direct impacts to places like Jamaica, potentially the Cayman Islands, eastern Cuba, and maybe down the road, central, southern Bahamas, and Turks and Caicos as well. And by the way, the slower movement produces a stronger storm on the GFS, just like the European model is showing, and just like the Hurricane Center has with their track. This is the main model run of the European. This is the deterministic, right? You can clearly see, I'm gonna let this loop up one more time, really slow loop. First of all, it meanders for days through Thursday, through Friday, slowly kind of just drifting to the west, and then you snap a finger, it seems like, as you get into Saturday. This is such a slow loop, by the way, and then it really begins to get stronger. But if this were to sit off the coastline of Jamaica, can you imagine the amount of rain and the surf and sea conditions it could bring to the eastern and the southern sides of the island for days and days on end? Look at this. We're just into Saturday afternoon and it hasn't moved much, but here comes that growth in the storm. Again, this is the lowest pressure. Watch that number go lower and lower, indicating a stronger storm. This is likely a major hurricane on the European model, which unfortunately for Jamaica wants to turn back north and east and brush the western side of the island. So on this deterministic run, the latest of the European model, we would get significant rain impacts for Hispaniola, but not the most significant direct wind impacts, but we would get all of that for Jamaica. Because again, with a track south and then with a track west of the island, Jamaica stays on the northeast quadrant, or the most dangerous quadrant of the storm, the entire time, with the most significant rain and wind impacts. This is about, I hate to say this, but this is about worst case scenario on the European model for a major hurricane to sit about 100 miles offshore south of the island and then try and pull back over the island eventually as well. Now, the ensemble members are obviously going to have a little bit more spread. They're as far east as Haiti. They're a little bit farther west, as you can see. Now, I'm not concerned right now for Central America or the Yucatan, because even if we have a farther west pole, all the models begin to turn it north back into places like the Cayman Islands and Cuba, and eventually towards the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. So not expecting direct impacts, but if it goes farther west, there could be more indirect impacts for Central America and the Yucatan as well. But clearly, you can first of all see some very powerful storms on the European model with a lot of direct impacts for places like the Cayman Islands and Jamaica and Cuba. This is the HWRF. I'm showing you this one because this is about the split, if you will, between the GFS and the European model. You get a storm that goes right in between Jamaica and Haiti, but also slows down and becomes a major hurricane by Sunday afternoon. So it has the forward speed of the GFS, but it has the farther west track of the European model. And let me be clear, the Hurricane Center has said in their discussions, there is still a lot of uncertainty overall with this track, right? We're very concerned about how intense Melissa could get, but exactly where it's going to go is still very much up in the air. So just to kind of show you a split down the middle, that's the HWRF model. It's east of Jamaica, which would be better for the rainfall totals, and it's a little bit forward speed quicker like the GFS. This is the HMON. This is a simulated radar. I wanted to show you this because even well away from the storm, here's Hispaniola, a lot of lashing squalls and heavy rain come in. And then this is the same track as the European model. It's south and west of the island, keeping the northeast quadrant over the island for the longest duration, keeping the exceptionally heavy rainfall and the gusty winds and all the highest sea conditions over the island. If this were to play out, and this is a very powerful hurricane in the HMON model as well, the amount of rain that could fall over Jamaica could also be catastrophic because of the slow movement of the storm and it just kind of, again, taking that turn just to the west of the island. When we look at the Google DeepMind, it is beginning to shrink its possibilities. It was much more widespread yesterday. It's as far east as the western side of the Dominican Republic, as far west as Jamaica. The center line track, if you will, is over Jamaica, but we don't look at that because that's just the average. What we want to look at is where are all these blue lines. Now, first of all, note how they're all clustered here because of the slow movement. They just don't go anywhere over the next 48 to 72 hours, but then they do pick up some forward speed. And that west jog and then turn north to northeast is also with the Google DeepMind, just like the European models. And they are more clustered today over Jamaica, eastern Cuba, eventually central southeast Bahamas, and Turks and Caicos as well. That purple line, that's that deterministic run that I showed you on my weather computer from the GFS. Notice how far east it is relative to all the other ensemble tracks. The average is that black line, which is following the European model on the western tip of Jamaica after pulling it south of the island. And then the European model is even slightly farther west on average, with a few more storms a little bit farther south and west before the recurve happens. But none of them, for the most part, have that direct landfall back into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This is the most concerning graphic, right? The Hurricane Center continues to up their intensity because it's based off of these tropical models that continue to also up the intensity of the storm. And again, the official forecast from the Hurricane Center right now is for it to become a Cat 4 hurricane in 5 days. Could it potentially reach Cat 5? It's not out of the question. Again, the heat content in the Caribbean and the little wind shear that's expected and how long it's going to sit over the Caribbean could allow this to become an extremely powerful catastrophic storm. So now we're going to get into the potential impacts, okay? And let me be very clear. We're only going to look at a few days because there's still so much uncertainty in the track. we can't really talk about storm totals as of yet, right? We can look at the next few days because we have a better idea of where it might go from here. You're looking at rain totals on the European model just through Monday. There's up to 60 inches of rain falling south and east of Jamaica on this. But if you look towards southern Haiti and the DR, in the central and the southeast sides of Jamaica, you're already into double digit in inches rain totals by Monday on the European model, which is, again, 250, 350 millimeters of rain, 10, 12 plus inches of rain. That could lead to some significant flash flooding. The other big concern is the wave heights. This is based off the European model. So again, you're going to see a slow track south of Jamaica, building wave heights, significant wave heights that go to 12, 15, even 20 plus feet. These are swells offshore, but obviously as this approaches the southern coastline of Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, other areas like Cuba and the Cayman Islands, some significant inundation of water is likely with elevated tidal conditions and obviously some surf breakers as well. So let's talk about the islands that are likely to be impacted first. Again, the timing I'm only comfortable going out through is through Saturday, and I'll continue to update these graphics on a daily basis. But through Saturday, the Dominican Republic and Haiti are likely to see areas of 5 to 10 inches of rain just through Saturday and up to 15 inches, 125 to 375 millimeters. Life-threatening flooding can occur with that, especially in a very mountainous island like Hispaniola with a lot of low-lying areas and fast-running water from the higher elevations. You guys know this area if you live there. You know what floods first. Please check in with local government and local officials, but you're going to want to be taking preparations right now to protect your property, yourself, and your family from what could be some significant rainfall on this island and likely to continue past Saturday as well. We've already had some wind gusts today in Port-au-Prince over 35 miles an hour. Those kinds of fresh breezes are likely to continue, and then significant swells on the southern coastline, which could easily be 10 to 20 feet or 3 to 6 meters. For Jamaica, again, just through Saturday, locally 2 to 4 inches, but probably higher than that beginning on Saturday and especially through early in the week. Again, these numbers are going to go up, but just through early Saturday, I'm expecting a few inches of rain. We had some gusty winds today in Jamaica. We are likely to see that again, even indirect impacts from Melissa with dangerous seas and dangerous swells as well. Before we move on, I want to go back over to the weather computer here and bring up the track again, so bear with me. Let's see, bring up the track. That's not it either. All right, well, that's good enough. Ignore that in the Gulf. That's what I wanted to avoid. Again, it's in one of those other test areas. What I wanted to talk about before we move on is the spaghetti plots from all of these other tropical systems, right? These tropical models. Let me drop off this forecast cone so it's a little bit easier to see. So you do have this agreement with some of the higher resolution tropical models like the HWRF and the HMON and others that take this storm slowly north and then track it west with a recurve north. And the consensus is closer to Jamaica for today. Sure, there are a couple a little bit farther to the east. There are a few a little bit farther off towards the west, but there is a little bit more agreement today with this meandering south of Jamaica and then eventually turning up to the north. Now, the key to Jamaica, as far as the winds go, will certainly be how close does this storm get to the island. If we take a look right now from the Kingston area to the center line track, we're a little bit more than 100 miles away. That would try and keep the core of the major hurricane force winds off of Jamaica. A closer approach would obviously put the island a little bit more in line with the potential hurricane force winds, but I can't even rule out with a major hurricane that some hurricane force winds, even 100 miles away, could reach the island, especially being on the north and the eastern side of the storm. But just again, from this track from the Hurricane Center, the center line is about 100 miles south. Let me clear that off, bring back on the cone, but that cone of uncertainty encompasses the entire island. So the farthest track north is over the island. And again, could it meander a little bit farther south? Yes, but ultimately, does it want to try and turn back north? More than likely. Okay, we're going to get now into what's happening with the rest of our area. I'm going to bring back up this wide view. I want to talk about what's been happening here. I've got some videos to show you guys. You guys did an awesome job and you sent me in some great videos. First of all, again, Oranjestad has had a 33-mile-an-hour wind gust for today. Willemstad, Curacao, a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust. Again, we had a 35-mile-an-hour wind gust in Port-au-Prince, a 30 in Kingston. We've had heavier rain already hitting the southern coastline of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and obviously that's just going to continue to spread in. Tropical moisture is surging north into the central and the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. It's getting wet there, and again, is this directly related to Melissa? No, but indirectly, absolutely. There's a ton of tropical moisture in play. Showers and storms are breaking out again over Jamaica well in advance of whatever Melissa is going to bring. Some heftier downpours from time to time. We've had some scattered rain over the Cayman Islands. It's been a little bit drier today over Quintana Roo, but we're seeing a few storms develop along coastal sections of Belize and Guatemala and the Bay Islands of Honduras. And we continue to see some opportunities for some passing squalls over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands for today. And again, from time to time, we've seen some winds kick up there between 20 and 25 miles an hour. Just more breeze than anything else across the northern half of the Lesser Antilles from Anguilla and Antigua Barbuda down towards Martinique. But now we've had a few heftier thunderstorms over the Windward Islands for today. Grenada has had a 35-mile-an-hour wind gust, and we've had some good thunderstorm activity. This first video is from Maria in Fajardo, Puerto Rico, as one of the squalls came by earlier today. Again, the overcast skies, the moisture-laden air, the significant breeze, and just some good heavy downpours, which you add it all up could still lead to some localized flooding in Puerto Rico over the next couple of days. Sangre Grande, Trinidad. This is from Nakobe. He sent this in. This is one of the localized storms in the Windward Islands, but it looks about the same as other areas, right? Good downpours, really gusty winds. Certainly the opportunity to cause some power problems when you have these kinds of breezes coming through, but we had some good local thunderstorms today across portions of the Windward Islands, including the Trinidad area. So appreciate Nakobe and Maria seeing in those videos. So now let's get into your island by island rainfall forecast overall. So I'm going to bring up our wide view here, switch back over to our model, and just go out the next couple of days. So even if you're not going to be directly impacted by Melissa, what are you guys going to end up seeing? Well, I've mentioned it. Down the road, now again, you're looking at the GFS model, but down the road, even the European model begins to spread more rain over the central, especially the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Now that's well in advance of even the center trying to get close to you guys. So improving rain chances there. Improving rain chances for Cuba and Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Obviously, significant rain is likely over Hispaniola. That could spread as far east as Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I'll be keeping a very close eye on that. Northern half of the Lesser Antilles likely to see some good rain, drying out a bit in the Windward Islands. The ABC Islands on the south end of this storm will see some moisture-laden air beginning to return. So the ABC Islands will also see better rain chances coming up as well, and a little bit drier overall in our far western areas. So this is your island by island rain chance. For the northwest Bahamas, again, relatively dry. Building rain chances throughout the rest of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos through Saturday, maybe even going higher than that beginning on Sunday. Good rain chance for Cuba, especially on the eastern side of the island. Improving rain chances for the Cayman Islands. Now look, you're west of the storm. You have to get the storm closer to you to see the rain chance begin to build. That's why it will take a bit before the Cayman Islands start to see the elevated rain chance based on the track for the National Hurricane Center. Belize City, Cancun, and Cozumel, more isolated to scattered storms. Obviously improving rain chances in Jamaica. And we're not just talking about an improving rain chance. We're talking about the opportunity for some significant rain beginning over the weekend in Jamaica through early to mid next week. Extremely high rain chances for Haiti and the Dominican Republic, elevated rain chances for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and again, some of that could be significant rain. High rain chance for Bermuda on Friday. Solid rain chances for Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis. You combine the outer bands, if you will, of Melissa with the easterly trade winds, and you just get elevated rain chances through most of the northern half of the Lesser Antilles. May not be steady all-day rains for sure, but breezy conditions with a few squalls. Yeah, that's in the forecast the next couple of days for Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe. Falls off a little bit, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique through Friday and Saturday. And then more isolated rain chances beginning Friday for St. Lucia, the SVG area, Barbados, even Grenada and TNT. Rain chances fall a bit there. Scattered storms for Suriname and Guyana with some locally heavy rain. Nueva Esparta is relatively dry, and rain chances again back on the improve for the ABC Islands on Friday and Saturday. Friends, you guys know I've got you covered. Obviously, I'll be doing these video updates. I've got the live streams. We'll go on live when we have to. We've got the radar system, our computer we can run live with our live cameras. 24/7 coverage here of the storm as necessary. You can also follow us across all of our social media platforms. We are on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video? Again, the easiest way to do that is going to be mymediamundo@gmail.com. Please remember that Media Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys offering free consultation and policy reviews. You get wind, hail, hurricane damage of any kind. They'll walk you through that insurance claim process. It's leanonmelaw.com for more information. Question, drop it in the comments section below. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Again, as of the 5 p.m. update from the Hurricane Center, it has Melissa becoming a Category 4 hurricane about 100 miles south of Jamaica late this weekend and early next week with a very slow movement in the meantime. I'm monitoring the situation very closely for you guys. I'll see you soon with the latest right here at Media Mundo.